Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Laura Barger of Yarn Wire, and you're watching episode 9 of Feedback. Today, we're joined by the wonderful Do Yun, who will be chatting with us and composer Nathan Davis about his piece De Clocher à Clocher, which was featured on Yarnware Currents Volume 0. A reminder, if you have questions, you can submit them ahead of time to feedback@yarnwire.org or watch the live stream on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch to submit questions in real time. So thank you all for being with us here today. And with this, I'll turn it over to you, Do-Yun.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Nathan.
Hi.
You?
Doing well, thanks. It's great to see you and everybody.
So lovely to see you in this committed space, but I know we're not that far from each other, especially our hearts. So I know it sounds so cliche, but
It's true.
But let's talk about this piece. First of all, I don't even know how to pronounce it, so you have to teach me.
Well, I'll do my best. It's De Clocher à Clocher. Which is French. I'm not a native French speaker, so don't take it from me. But it's a line from a poem by Rimbaud, Arthur Rimbaud. And I thought it sounded nicer in French than it does in English, though in English it's also pretty nice, from bell tower to bell tower.
I like it.
Yeah.
And the whole poem is really short, so I could just read it in English really fast.
Oh, yeah, do that.
So
Not
3
French.
lines. No, I should use discretion and not go there. The poem is this: I stretched ropes from bell tower to bell tower, garlands from window to window, golden chains from star to star, and I dance.
Nice.
And that's it. And that emerged as I was starting to think of the different connections, metaphorically and physically, between the instruments in this piece.
Yes. So let's first talk a little bit about your sound. Your especially your sensitivity to sound. You yourself is a percussionist, and a fantastic composer. Your piece for the amplified triangle is actually one of my favorite pieces. Not just of yours, but also like of people who actually use Max, because it just really like go inside the sound of physicality of the triangles, but it's going beyond that as well. It's going beyond the patch, going beyond the triangle object itself. And I remember when you were trying to explain me that of that piece, you were talking about how you're demonstrating with how far and how you strike with the triangles, but the way you said it, which I always feel so memorable as a listener, as things, is that how you listen. And I think that the way of how you listen is very different than when I'm not a percussionist. Like you will actually open a door of how you would approach how to listen to the object that you often strike. So I wanted to start from there, talking about a little bit of listening practices that we might have, and what's your approach to your listenings.
Well, thank you for that, and good memory. I appreciate you bringing back that conversation. Yeah, my process is very hands-on. As a percussionist, the tradition that I inherited is more how to play anything than how to play something, and so there's this constant curiosity that I know that I share with all the musicians on this in this meeting today, and it's very typical of percussionists that we want to find new sounds and new objects that perhaps weren't intended to be instruments at all. But that physicality and approaching them as a non-expert is a big part of the way I find my own voice in the instruments or objects that I'm writing for.
Shall we look at, because I know that there are a few clips of how these materials are used for this piece. Can you talk to us about the pipes that you were using and you were trying to find it and all those trips that you made?
Sure. Well, before we look at a clip, in this piece, I knew that I wanted to explore the sounds of bells, which is something that I return to frequently. Both as a percussionist, I'm interested in those sounds, but also because harmonically they're so rich and irregular when compared with, say, a vibrating string or a column of air in a wind instrument. So I wanted to kind of expand and orchestrate those sounds on the piano, and also introduced some other odd harmonics using pipes. So Russell and I took a trip to where was this place, Russell?
It was on Morgan Avenue, right near the BQE, and it's like I think we typed into Google like pipes, and we went to the closest place, and we just checked out what pipes they had. And you had measurements. You had made like a lot of calculations, I remember. I don't know if we found the exact ones, but I think we ended up with the pitches you wanted. But I think maybe the harmonic content was kind of a surprise, at least to me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, totally. Well, should we roll some tape and look at those pipes?
There's a video, I think, called Cutting Pipe or something like that of the actual process. It's so short because at that time, I think our phones could literally only hold like 3 seconds of video. So that was it. And then I had to throw it away.
When was this?
This must have been 2012.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's not 2012.
I know.
Yeah, and we can shoot HD video on our phones. But,
Yeah.
4K. 4K.
That's
yeah,
right. 4K.
Right. Even better.
Even more.
So we went in search for certain pipes and came back with a bunch of options, and these they're pretty long. They're like 6 to 8 foot pipes, or kind of like flagpoles or something.
Yeah.
And I think we already had in our respective percussion arsenals some shorter pipes that are tuned to various lengths, but when you get into these really long lengths, you can hear more of the overtones because you can't actually hear the true fundamental. It gets so low, and so it gets quite weird there in a delightful way.
Did you build a piece off of these pipes? Sorry, it just like occurred to me, like that was the first thing we did, when we made this piece together, is we went and searched for those. So like, I mean, is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, which came first, the chicken or the pipes?
That's a great question. I know that I was working on several sections simultaneously. I was working with the piano material and the pipe material, and then trying to bring them together because I was building these piano chords and harmonies based on more standard overtones of Western European style bells, the ones that curve outward at the bottom, and those have a nice major minor triad in them. Usually there's a very low hum tone fundamental, and then there's a minor tenth above, and then an octave or so above that, there's a major third. So that's part of the nice but consistent dissonance in the overtones of a bell. And pipe overtones are totally different. So I had a few fundamentals in mind that I wanted to use, and then once I got them, I started blending that with the harmonic material that I was already developing for the piano.
Cool.
Is there any way we could listen to part of the piece?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should listen to the opening before we introduce section before we introduce those big pipes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
So beautiful. Oh my God, like haunting. When I first heard the track, I was like, whoa, it sounds so Nathan. So very young Wire, you know, and I think that's brought me to another question, is that young Wire are two pianos. Like, what is it like for a percussionist to write for another percussionist group?
Yeah, great.
You wanted to prove anything? Like, you wanted to you know what I mean?
Well, I should start by saying I had been fans of Yarn Wire for a long time already, in spite of the fact that or partly because of the fact that I got to play alongside the members in various configurations in their other projects. So I knew all the players really, really well, and am so happy to call you all friends as well. And just have had the highest admiration for what you've done as a group and the commissions you've undertaken and the leadership you've shown in the new music scene. So it was thrilling to be asked to write a piece for the group, and it really brought together my comfort zone and my discomfort zone in writing, because of course I've written a lot for percussion and I have a pretty good idea of how to get what I want, but I had not written anything major for piano outside of having a part in a large ensemble piece. So I was really daunted by the idea of not one but two pianists in this work. So that took a lot to get my head around, and I think I really focused in on how I would approach the piano as a percussion instrument and as a non-percussion instrument, or as a percussion instrument approached by a percussionist.
Struck me more as like you were dealing with so much, because when you're thinking about percussion and piano, right? Like in the traditional sense, those are the percussion section or the rhythm section, or whatever you call it. So it's very much focused on the attack. But in this piece, it's all about the resonance. It's about the attack, the resonance that come out from different kind of attacks, and then into that the body of that. So the progression of those harmony comes out of that, kind of blossoms out of that attack, which I think is just at the core is the piece, you know. So and I see you do that so well, and
You nailed it.
yeah. What's that?
Thank you.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Because you know, I grew up as a pianist, and I also do not like to write for pianos because I feel that my hands run faster than my mind. If I were to, so I don't use piano when I compose. But if I were to write a piano, if it too, I'm like, oh my god, how many tricks can I put?
Does this mean we're never going to work together, do you?
Only if it's on one piano.
Only if it's one piano.
Only if it's and Nathan's playing. Another something.
Anytime.
So no, but I think that is the fun part of being a composer, is that how to look at our demons. That's a very, very strong word, but I think the challenges, right? The challenges that you feel like your limitations, and then use the limitation to think that will be actually something that you can play around with this new piece that you may want to convey.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, is there anything that you wanted to tell us about this section?
Yeah, a couple of things. The way that I got around writing a lot of attacks for the piano and was able to kind of let those resonances blossom is by using a bowed piano technique that I developed for a while. There's a lot of bowing the piano where you, in other pieces, where you take a piece of bow hair and kind of saw it back and forth. In this one, what I did was tie fishing line to two strings directly close to the nut, so it doesn't scrape back and forth. You actually scrape you drag your fingers along the fishing line, and that the little tiny vibrations of it bouncing on your finger translate to the string.
And I have
Sorry,
to say, I have to interject because unfortunately Ning is not with us today, but I know she would want me to say this. I just feel it. That Nathan, because of this technique, we have taught this to a number of young composers in different workshops. And when we talk about extended piano techniques, or when we are workshopping a new piece, and composers say, what are some timbres, some ways of getting sound? So we've actually been able to transfer this knowledge. So thank you.
It's called Davisian bowing.
Awesome. That makes me so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a lion's roar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same idea.
Actually, Ning made a video for us because she couldn't be here, just isolating this technique. We could show that real quick.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and you need lots of rosin to make it work just the right way.
Yeah, that's expert technique. I remember getting like bags of like batter's rosin or whatever. I went to like the sporting goods shop at Union Square to get like different kinds of rosin to help like improve that grip on the string.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've got some of that somewhere.
Gymnasts, rosin.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing that I always very struck by your music is that, you know, even though you're one of those composers, I would often feel that you would always do some kind of like technique things, but it, to my ear, it's never really just stopped there. And it's always has this very singular Nathan's universe and that kind of like a dramatic narrative. I don't like to use the word narrative, but maybe it's that landscape, right? Oh, also a bad word, but you know what I mean. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't, because the technique was really like going to the motion of the sound, So that to me is the best part. It's not like how those things are made, or a lot of people are using bow piano, a lot of people are using this and that. So could you tell us a little bit about your the dramatic beats, if there's any, and the structure of the piece?
Sure. Well, the this opening section, which uses that technique to kind of stretch out the sonorities and let them bloom and blossom in dynamically in different ways, and kind of revoice the chords. There's a gradual descent or bringing together of the purely pitched sounds and the more noisy sounds. And there's already noise, in this bowed technique. One of my points of access to the piano for this piece was to start preparing it, and that became kind of a way of moving toward the pipes and eventually the tam-tam. But I found that also confronting demons, as you mentioned in writing. There's something about the linearity of the piano, of it being so orderly and the same across the whole range, that I didn't have a way into that. And I prepared one note in the middle. I think it was like the D above middle C, and suddenly that one note gave me a bunch of different overtones and pitches, and that opened the door into the whole piano. And I said, okay, well, and I recalled at the time going to recitals when I was in school or when I was a kid. Like every once in a while, there'd be a piano recital, and a string would go out of tune, or there'd be a mechanical problem, and I would look forward to that key being struck again, because that was something that broke the linearity of the piano, and it became kind of an exciting game. Like, okay, when's that going to happen again?
Right.
So
the differences of all this like different sounds that it makes, right? Like this, like notes.
Yeah, it breaks the whole thing up. So in writing the piece, I started with one prepared note, and I tuned it, and I liked that. And then I added, I think, maybe 8 or 9 in total, and decided to make the kind of second big section of the piece a process of adding 1 or 2 prepared notes at a time. So a phrase that was repeated over and over was gradually abstracted or taken out of the pure piano sound world toward a prepared piano, more noisy, more percussion orchestra kind of sound.
I think we have an example of that. Yeah.
Let's hear that.
Yeah, let's listen to that.
The pianos and triangles, yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
I can listen to this forever.
I know. It's true.
That's true.
Keep preparing it.
So beautiful. Oh my god. Okay, I need to like be professional. What I was gonna, I have actually a professional question for you. Now I don't really quite remember. I think it's about, you know, when you are hearing those wrong notes or all this accidental sound as you described. And then how did you hear it and how did you transcribe? How did you go into the notation part?
Well, I determined what partials I wanted from the various prepared notes, and then in that section I made a phrase of 15 measures or so, and it's repeated 4 times, and in the pause between each repetition, there's a moment where we hear only the resonance and this bowl from the percussion, and then the pianists insert a couple more screws at a predetermined point, and then play the phrase again. So it's just it's going through that process, but with the same notated pitches on the piano.
Is that stressful to add notes, like preparations while playing?
A little bit.
I remember that
but
being a thing.
I think we devised a musical solution that I don't know, maybe there was like extra time on a triangle roll or some sort of percussion timbre. There was enough resonance that we could sort of, that's something percussionists have a lot to teach pianists about, is how to do something really logistically difficult in a very short amount of time, but making it look slow. I think we learned some of that.
Did you say make it look slow?
Yeah, to make it look like you're relaxed, not like you're in a hurry to sort of, I have to rush to get this action done in this very short amount of time. Percussionists are really great at that. So, but yeah, it is a little stressful.
Composer who is not a percussionist, I do have to say percussionists are possibly like one of my favorite people in the entire orchestra and band practices. Okay, now the secret is out, but I don't think it's a secret, because those are always people who show up the first, leave the last, and they also have plans. They always have plans. And sometimes even go into like Excel sheets of all those plans,
It's true.
And
Yep.
they make like extra trips for you.
Yeah.
And they are very excited about banging or not banging. And like the amount of prep work that going into before the first note is being played is incredible. And I think that's because as a composer, you do a lot of that research too, so that's why I feel like that's kind of like a camaraderie rapport happening there that is so much appreciated. Not to say that I don't appreciate pianists.
It's okay. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah. So it's like to be able to have an ally as a percussionist are just such a lifelong treasure to have, because you can be like a friend, like just like experiment sound with. So now back to you, Nathan. I wonder, so how the piece end?
There are a couple more things that happen along the way, and maybe we should talk about the final appearance of the big pipes.
Yeah.
And this is also related to the title, this idea of connecting strings, ropes, garlands everywhere. So we arranged the pipes in 2 pairs, and had microphones which were hung from this kind of lighting rack that's in Issue Project Room.
Yeah.
I would want to back up and say that from the moment that y'all asked me to write this piece, I was really excited also about writing for the new space that Issue had moved into.
Yeah.
I'd been to and played at the previous 2 incarnations of Issue Project Room, and this is that rare space dedicated to experimental music that has a a real resonance, like a long decay. And I think it was even longer at that point than it is now.
Yeah.
They hadn't done any treatment at all, and it was just this echoing marble room. So that was really exciting.
It's bathhouse, I always feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is. And they have these things kind of added to hang lights too. So I decided we should be hanging tam-tams around.
I love that.
And some
That's
swinging
awesome.
microphones and things like that. So that's something. The swinging microphones I stole from Pendulum Music by Steve Reich, and decided to use that as a way of articulating a pulse from a vibrating pipe. Do we have can we show a clip of the pipe section?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that moment, the pianists are moving the microphones and exploring the resonances in real time while the percussionists are playing the pipes, and so they're working together to create this kind of undulating sound world. And then at the end, they pull them way back and release them so that they're swinging on like 10-foot cables back and forth over the resonance while they run back to the piano because there's a lot of stuff coming up for them.
Calmly
added
though,
that
because we taught them.
Right. That's just the logistics thing, the swing, just to get him back to the piano. What's that, Duyan?
Swing hit the percussionists.
Almost.
That had to be choreographed as well, as I remember.
Yeah.
We
Oh
worked
yeah.
on like getting them on like a straight axis because they would occasionally just go like all over the place.
Yep. That's
But you like that, right? Would you like the all over the place?
Not in this case. There's this, I'm very specific about the things that I'm specific about, and there's this recurring like offbeat motive that happens throughout the piece. So I really wanted to, if possible, get those undulations to happen really, really together.
Nice.
And it worked great.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, it was scary because sometimes it would get some distortion and feedback in the thing, and we had to fine tune that. But I mean, what a moment! It's just like no one's playing except the mics. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, visually, it must be very. I've never seen this on live, but I could imagine the sort of like things are being unsaid are actually the climax of things, right? So
Totally.
just seeing the motion, which actually, Nathan, you have done explored that kind of idea too. That's always the spatial and
Yeah, and the next extension of that, there's a piano solo that prepared piano solo that follows that, which then goes into like a further extension of these strings, which are tied to tam-tams around the space. Do we have an excerpt of the piano solo?
Yeah, we got both of them. We should check the piano solo, and then that string section is awesome.
Oh, so satisfying. It's so much like, when I first heard Brise's Partial, I was mind blown because it was such a that without electronics, and it's just like, whoa, so much better than a lot of maximum MSP pieces. And I feel like this, if I were just listen to this as a record, I would be for sure thinking it's like a lot of synth and electronics, but in fact it was just two percussionists with two pianists.
Yeah.
And a lot of reverb.
Yeah, thanks to Issue.
Yeah. No, that really helped.
Yeah. It's true. It's almost like a site-specific piece in some ways. Not that it couldn't be played other places, but that room was it's so much in my ear for what this piece sounds like.
It did get played, right? Somewhere else at another festival,
so,
right? What was that like in a different venue? I'm so curious. Like my experience is so tied to this performance.
I've never been to another performance of it. I know it's been done, and I've gotten a couple of recordings sent to me, and I don't know if it's like real reverb or artificial added to it. Do I remember correctly that you guys played it at the Stone also?
Yes, we did.
A different acoustic.
Right.
That was definitely
right.
different.
So dry. Maybe that's why it's blocked from my memory. No, I'm just kidding. But like we couldn't mount the temp. Like seeing those pictures of the gongs hung up. I mean, yeah, you can't really do that anywhere unless you have like a 30-foot ceiling.
And it's a hazard for the audience if you can't get the right angles so that the cable is going well above their heads,
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not, this piece, when I see it, this is my curator, like, side of brain came up, like, there can be done so many places. I think kitchen can be done.
Totally.
I think outdoors can be done. I think, like, a lot of, like, the outdoors, semi-outdoors stage can be done. And also, you can build all those, like, other objects, right? So to create this, like, pseudo reverberation plates, just to let it run and to play in a cave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm all in favor of board reverb also. There were mics on all the percussion and in the piano, and so in a dry space, it's totally fine to just add reverb.
Yeah,
totally. Is that I'm here? I feel like I'm hearing something. Just like hearing all this like frequencies. I wanted to ask you a final question from me. Among 10,000 final questions, personally over texts. So since we cannot really travel for work, I think you're kind of like me too, that we've been in New York for the longest time in our adult life, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you what it's like. I'm going to ask you, like, is that affecting you on how you listen, and what this experience impacts how you listen?
Yeah, it's certainly impacted us all, and right away I had trouble doing the kind of work that required like long-term concentration on building something that was unfolding at the rate that I normally did. Like I usually have a trajectory, or to use the word that you didn't want to use, narrative, to move a piece along. And I've been, I think it's part of this like Groundhog Day effect of things kind of going back one step forward, one step back constantly, experience of time, that I've just been doing that in the music that I've been making. I've been making generative patches that can, in Max, that will take recordings that I've made. Some of these are field recordings, some of these are recordings of colleagues of mine, and can generate material that I like for an infinite amount of time. And so when I'm working on one of these, I'll kind of set it up and start it running, and I'll maybe do some other things as I listen to it, and I go back and I poke it or tweak some parameters so that it does more what I like. And what I'm finding is I'm drawn to a kind of ambient music that is not so similar that I shut it out, but not so varied that it draws my full attention. And my level of concentration and my threshold for boredom are pretty specific. So I'm just trying to put something between those two, and that's the kind of stuff I've been working on.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you set up the mic. Sorry, now I'm very interested. Like, I'm gonna do it too. How do you do it?
Well, so I'm using mostly sound file input, but actually just the other day I was creating a new way of doing it with live input as well. But basically having several recorded buffers that can be played through in randomly determined lengths, starting at randomly determined times. And then, so sometimes it's like going in a circle like this. Sometimes it's never the same loop. I almost never use repeating loops, but it's like this kind of loop. So it very, very slowly works through some material. And if it gets boring or gets stuck, I poke it so that it starts something slightly different.
Do you mean like change the parameters?
I change the parameters, or I have a button that I make a button that will just instantly change a few things at once, so that it disrupts the system. Because what I'm building are kind of layers of randomness, randomness of possibilities that I like. So it will always generate things that I think are of the piece. And there are enough of these that it will continue to spit out non-repeating kind of sound. But if that ecosystem drifts too far toward being like completely busy or too sparse, I can just kind of reset.
Amazing, so beautiful talking about the boredom and the repetition and finding that spectrum in, just finding, like, I think that's like finding all of us trying to find the reason that why we are extopia. I think this is unless you want to talk about, it's the end of our thing.
Yeah, it seems
I want to
go ahead, please.
I want to thank Yarn Wire for this spectacular performance. It was really in my memory is one of my favorite performances of anything. It was such a special event, and you can see from my score that I was lazy about a lot of specifics, because I knew that I was going to have this rare opportunity to work closely with you guys for a whole week to fill in the blanks there and develop the piece and the performance practice.
But that is the virtue of it, right? Like, if you predetermine everything, then the Young Wild is just at your service to realize the notations. This is more of like inviting the group to be the collaborators, and that's why the dedication really shows in the sound, in the recording, and in performances. And I do feel that this is a lesson that many composers can really learn, how to switch on that performer side of psyche and invitation, because notation should not just be a dictation, it should be an invitation.
Yeah, I remember the situation being exactly like that. And like you said, Nathan, it was like, in 2012, we hadn't had so much experience with new pieces, and getting to work with you just like hands-on. Something works great, something doesn't, we change it. I don't know what you're talking about, and then you'd show me the exact screw to use on the crotale. That's kind of the dream. And I think the piece kind of set a standard, actually, of a way of working in a very collegial way, and just like making good sounds together. That was pretty awesome.
Tagline: the piece sets
the standard.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it seems like we're just about out of time for today, but I want to thank both of you, both Nathan and Duyun, for being with us. And I also want to definitely give a shout out for Duyun, because she has a new release with Jack Quartet, Cockroaches Tarantella, which you can listen to on the label Modern Sky from China. And that's streaming online, right? Yeah. Great. So again, thank you both so much for being with us and giving us a chance to revisit this piece today. It's been really amazing to listen to it all again and talk about it with you both. And our next episode, coming up on Thursday, September 24th, will feature the trumpet player, improviser, and composer Peter Evans in conversation with another polyglot, the composer, improviser, and percussionist Levi Lorenzo. And a reminder to all of you who are watching, subscribe to us, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube. And also, please come and visit us over on patreon.com, where you can support this project and really join a community of people who are trying to survive this musical, again, that word, landscape, all together. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks.
Bye.